Hello, my soul brothers and soul sisters. I am Ron Smith, and this is the Dr. Ron Smith Investigate Show, where we separate the real from fake, the fact from fiction, and give you the winner's edge. And sometimes we're able to turn your water into wine. Today, I talk about the talk, and when we talk about financial literacy, but I have a special guest. His name is Crocket Oaks, and let me give you a quick bio rundown because this man is, he's the epitome of versatility. He is a veteran, a colonel in the United States Army. He was a security specialist for a private industry. He's a former FBI special agent. He is currently an associate vice chancellor at the University of Missouri in West Plains. He is a preservationist. Now, he's going to tell you what that is because basically, I'm kind of late to the game, but I understand exactly what he's doing. But I want him to give you the details of that. Of course, he got a BS and a master's degree, and I'm quite sure that the knowledge that he's going to drop, you're going to think that he has a PhD. So, without further ado, Crocket Oaks. How you
Dr.
doing?
Ron, you're way too generous. I appreciate that gracious introduction, and I'm so happy to be on your show today.
Well, tell us what this preservationist is, and then we're going to get in talking about money.
Sure. Well, I tell you, the title preservationist was cloaked on me after the first project that my wife and I did here in West Plains, Missouri, restoring a segregation cemetery called Sadie Brown Cemetery. Sadie Brown Cemetery was formed in the mid 1800s. It's the final interring place for formerly enslaved World War II veterans, essentially the African American population of the Ozarks, specifically around West Plains, Missouri. So over the years, Dr. Ron, Sadie Brown Cemetery fell into significant disrepair. My wife and I, upon our return here to my hometown, approximately 4 years ago, we looked at it, said it was basically a crying shame, and got busy trying to restore the cemetery in a manner that would provide dignity and dignity to the descendants and confidence that going forward, the final resting place of loved ones would be properly cared for. We were able to secure grants. We were able to raise significant personal contributions in order to make that work happen. And then our follow-up to Sadie Brown Cemetery was the restoration of historic Lincoln School, which was the segregation-era Black school here in West Plains, Missouri. We have since completely restored Lincoln School. We're in the process of getting it placed on the National Historic Register, and we're hosting a number of informative events there for the community. So that's a long-winded answer to your question about being a preservationist, but we've preserved a couple of significant African-American institutions in my hometown, and I proudly wear the title of preservationist.
I'm going to have you on my show again, and we're just going to talk about that in particular. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we can get that scheduled because I know you're a busy guy.
Look forward to it.
Because you touched on so many topics. And of course, my platform is the talk, the conversation I wish I had. And basically, we're talking about financial literacy because that conversation was not under my roof. And one of the best investments I know is actually how do you educate yourself? So what books did you read to actually give you a fundamental, framework on your financial literacy and understanding?
As an adult, Dr. Ron, the book that very clearly jumps out of my mind as being informative and very helpful to me was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
Now, this book, I'm sure you've heard of it or probably have even read it and studied it.
Yes. Matter of fact, give it about 10 copies away.
Yeah. It's about how you look at money and how you think about money, not for what it can buy, but for how money can work for you, and compounding interest. And how compounding interest is really the eighth wonder of the world, because it's amazing once you get your arms and head around how money works, how liberating and how powerful you can become.
I agree. And here's the thing, and I talk about it a lot on my podcast, is that can be a negative or positive. It all depends on your perspective on how you use that. So you have been a professional, since you've been out of the college. What would be some of the things that, since we're in the graduation season, what advice would you give a college graduate leaving, graduating this week, last week, the weeks to come? What would you be your advice financially to tell them?
Two significant things I would give, and it's the same advice that I give the kids on the campus of Missouri State University here in West Plains, where I serve as the assistant vice chancellor. Invest in yourself, invest in education, because education will bring you financial literacy and bring you financial freedom. And then once you do land the job and start to work, think about what your next step is as you're working that job. Don't get so complacent and take things for granted that you aren't thinking about how to move further within that job with your current employer, or better yet, taking a job, making more money with another corporation, or another entity. Oftentimes I see young people, they get a job and they feel like they are stuck, and they don't pursue their dreams because of one thing or another that tends to hold them back, whether it be relationships, whether it be just comfort, the fear of discomfort, for whatever reason, just be risk-taking. Muhammad Ali, I think, said it best: he who is not courageous enough to take a risk will achieve nothing in life. And that would be a good piece of advice, I think, that I could give young people.
In your opinion, what is the missing piece regarding financial literacy?
Yeah, again, I'm going to have to vacillate back to compounding interest. I think that young people don't fully appreciate, people in general don't fully appreciate, there's two ways of making money. You can physically get out and work for it, Dr. Ron, as you know,
right?
Or you can allow for your money to work for you. Other than that, there ain't really too many legal ways to achieve that effort, achieve the goal of making money. You work for it or it works for you. And so the piece about it working for you is oftentimes the silent piece that people don't fully focus on until they get to be, later in life. And then they start reflecting and thinking about wished I woulda, coulda, and they've lost 20 years of compounding interest.
It's almost weekly or daily that I hear about the wealth gap between, the black people, white people, women, and men. How can we improve that wealth gap with some of the things that you already said? Can you give us an example of how we can actually improve that wealth gap? Yeah, you mentioned education and you mentioned the compound interest. So give us some practical ways actually that maybe have worked for you.
Well, one thing that I think we as African Americans kind of come up on the short end of the stick most of the time within our respective workspaces is salary disparity. Salary disparity is huge. Not paying us what we truly deserve to be paid for the job that we're doing, and acquiescing over the fact that we're not making as much as Tom, and Tom's making $2.50 more. Over time, that $2.50 more that Tom is making is is huge, and
Right.
it's to our detriment not to be unyielding when it comes to demanding what it is that we deserve salary wise. Now, in order to be able to demand anything, you got to be in a position of power, right, Dr. Ron?
Correct.
And so, how you get yourself in a position of power is to educate yourself, get your education, be a subject matter expert, do the dirty work, be indispensable within your job. Now you have a position of power that you can make certain demands based on empirical data about what you need to be compensated and why it is that you need to be compensated like that.
Looking over your bio and some of the highlights of your resume, I could tell basically you had a family structure. Give us a little a view of your family environment and their view of money, and what was your first endeavor with money?
Well, I tell you, my first spat with making money was, I guess I was about 6 years old. Two instances that jump out in my mind. My mother and father, they both worked. My brother and I don't know if you're familiar with the term latchkey kids.
Yes.
We were latchkey kids. We let ourselves in after school. We let ourselves out prior to, going to the bus stop school. So we were latchkey kids. My parents started paying us, rather than us going to after school care, started paying us $5 a piece weekly to let ourselves in the house and to stay there and not destroy anything or cause any problems until they got home from work. And so that was my first bit of allowance, $5 a week, and it was primarily for babysitting ourselves. Now my second aha money making financial experience at a very young age was one Christmas. My father gave my brother and I a push lawnmower. It was no used push lawnmower. He probably didn't give $25, $30 for it back in the 70s. And that lawnmower that summer made my brother and I more money than you could ever imagine, because we understood how to mow yards. We understood that if we had a lawnmower and showed up on your doorstep or saw you out there mowing and we pulled up with our lawnmower, we were going to be good for $5 to $10 anyway. And so we had the lawn game, the mowing service sewed up all up and down our street. And so my father was most impressed with our ingenuity and hustle with regard to how we made that lawnmower. I think we made like $600 that summer between my brother and I off his Christmas gift.
Wow. Now, how old were you at that first entrepreneurial venture?
So my brother was 9 and I was 6.
Wow.
And so
you guys was rolling in the dough.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was one of those things where my father and mother, they instilled those values and that how to the importance of money and the importance of being able to work to get that, to take care of yourself. They instilled that in us at a very young age. And I'm so grateful because, when you start getting those lessons at that young age, they stick with you. They have no other choice but to. And so I'm blessed in that regard. My parents are prolific savers, and that has just rubbed off on me. I model my financial literacy and my financial game after them.
So after the lawn service, what was the next venture that you and your brother or you individually went into?
We always had jobs at a young age. We always worked part-time jobs, and in my instance, even in high school, from the time I was 16 until I went to university, I had a job, and I was making, minimum wage, but I was working 40 hours a week, split shift. So I had that. What do they call that co-op program in high school where you can work part of the day and then go to school for part of the day?
Right.
So I did that, and I was able to get 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the evening after football practice. And so that made for 8 hours a day, kind of split shift. And I did that for a couple of years until literally left to go to college. And, I tell my son, my daughter this all the time. It's not how much you make, it's how much you save.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so we may have not made much off those little mediocre jobs, but we saved prolifically. And that's a game changer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to the Crocket Oaks. He's the vice chancellor of Missouri State University in West Plains. And after we take this break, we're going to be back and he's going to drop some more knowledge on us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and this is the Dr. Ron Smith Investigate Show. We have Mr. Crocket Oaks, and basically he is a multi-talented young man, and we're talking about really get your money right. But we are talking about, the financial literacy at the core of this whole dynamics. And we know that the statistics that's out there. And one of the things that we want to do is change that dynamic. So basically, Dr. Oaks I call you Dr. Oaks, although that may be coming in your future. He talked about financial literacy. He's talking about compound interest. He's talked about savings. He talked about entrepreneurship. And he talked about compound interest. He has been a colonel in the Army. He has been a special agent with the FBI. How critical is health and wealth, and what's that connection for you?
Man, that's an excellent question. Often overlooked when you start talking about financial literacy and wealth. Your
Yes.
health is your wealth.
Yes.
And, having good health, trying to maintain your physical, to have the strength to work an extra job, even work your primary job, staying out of doctors' offices so that, you can keep those premiums in your pocket
Yes.
is huge. It's huge. And oftentimes within our community, Dr. Ron, this piece is just so shattered for our legacy and our families that it deserves a prominent chapter within any financial literacy book, especially dealing with African Americans.
Yes. One of the things that I had proposed at the last family reunion that I attended is that we do a health narrative. And what I mean by that is that my history, my people, and my mother and my grandfather, diabetes. And one of the things on this health, sheet just say, hey, my grandmother and my grandfather, as far as you could go back into your history, had these type of things, or whether they had them, and this was part of their, created them transitioning, and or passing, and some of the things that health-wise that they have to deal with, and that my children need to know what's going on with me. So basically, when they feel certain ways, they can kind of understand it. Why I'm getting dizzy, why I have headaches, why do I feel, sluggish sometimes? Those are some of the symptoms that could, lead to, health issues down the road. I didn't get an opportunity to ask, my parents, but that's one of the things that I propose, and that's one of the things that I talk to my kids about. Right now, my diet and exercise has somewhat controlled my high blood pressure, and I'm one of the proponents that I'm going to eat right, and I'm going to exercise. I don't want to be on medication.
Right.
Have you thought about doing that, or what you think how that fits into this wealth plan?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, Dr. Ron, meds are expensive.
Yes.
Healthcare and having health challenges can be very costly.
Yes.
So, that attacks the bottom line. And if you think about your health as an investment in your portfolio and in yourself, it then becomes very simple as to what you need to do in order to secure your financial freedom, maintain or gain wealth, and that's taking care of your health. Not only does it rhyme, it just makes good sense.
Yes. Uh, uh, for I guess for transparency's sake, I always tell people that basically, uh, I on trial for some of my errors. Life is trial and error. So basically, I got this credit card when I was in college, and of course, I maxed it out. So my transparency is that basically I didn't understand the credit utilization, which means basically, if they gave me a $1,000 line of credit, basically I should not use 25% of that, and I need to make sure I pay that monthly. And of course, that was one of the big mistakes that I made, that I didn't understand that. So tell us about some of your failures and success that made you the man that you are right now.
Well, let's start with the success. Let's accentuate the positive first.
Okay.
Some of the most positive things that I feel I give myself credit for, and it wasn't without the help and support and the love and advice of others. I stand on the shoulders of giants, Dr. Ron,
Yes.
is just understanding the value of an education and understanding that, rather than work harder, I could work smarter and achieve the same thing financially by just being smart with not only getting an education, but my older self would tell my younger self, while I'm capable, think about where you get that education from, because um, obtaining education from certain institutions can mean more financially to you than others.
Yes.
And so make those decisions on the front end so that you don't be surprised on the back end when things aren't going your way. I'm big on thinking about this salary disparity. And I think that the more you arm yourself educationally and knowledge wise, and within your field of discipline and specialty, you can now chip away and have a good argument as to why salary disparity should not be the case in your instance. So that's one
that
thing, education.
okay. One of the things that through my research, the environment dictates how our worldview of money. One of the things that that I kicked around a couple of weeks ago is we live in a capitalist democracy, and if the faster and the sooner that we realize that, the more we'll take this financial literacy more important. So, what's your view on what I just said, the capitalist democracy?
Well, we certainly are capitalists. We're a capitalist country. We sometimes value money over everything. I think that within your life, you have to have a strike a balance, right?
Yes.
It can't be your sole single focus, but at the same time, you can't be illiterate when it comes to money and what it can do for you, and how you can not only help yourself but help others that you love. And so I say you have to understand what your priority is. You have to work hard on trying to learn from others. Oftentimes, our generation and our people, Dr. Ron, they keep having to learn the same lessons
Yes.
generation after generation. And, having kids out of wedlock, um, going through a number of different relationships that lead to dissolution of income and dissolution of financial structures. I mean, these are just, addiction.
Yes.
These are all things that at the end of the day, attack the bottom line, and that is our financial wherewithal. And yeah, I mean, it's just we need to learn the good and the bad from others.
Okay, now you hit on something, and I just want to talk about who are some of the people that mentored into you that that contribute to your understanding of how this world actually works.
Yeah,
Who
I've
are some of
had
your mentors?
I was raised by both my mother and father in the same house. I think that, I say that because that little nugget of truth is very beneficial. It has been very beneficial to me
Oh,
throughout
it's
my life. It's
yes,
huge. It's huge. And I know as a child, you can't control that. I mean, that's not your affair to control, but I will say as far as in my regard, it was a game changer. It was a multiplier, especially as an African American male, having that good family structure. I was able to, I think, over the years, turn that into currency through my knowledge, through my ability to just work with others and see the big picture. So, long story short, my parents were huge. My brother and I, we had healthy competition amongst each other as kids growing up. And that, I can't tell you how beneficial that has been in my life, just understanding that he's out there grinding. And with him grinding, I need to be grinding too, because I can't let him outdo me. And he can't let me outdo him. And so, iron sharpens iron, and we
right.
just constantly keep rubbing up against each other to get sharper.
Nothing like healthy competition.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm having so much fun, and my time is running out. But I want to talk about your artwork, and how important that is to invest in Black artwork. Can you tell us about that? Because I got a follow up question with that. But
Yeah.
Go ahead and share some.
My wife and I have been collecting art for a long time, and I have to admit, when we first started collecting art, all we could collect is signed prints, and we started buying signed prints and thought that was great until we realized that there was more out there, like original artwork, like commissioned original artwork. So, for instance, this painting behind me is by a brother named Charlie Palmer, who recently designed, and the U.S. Post Office released a postage stamp for depicting one of his portraits of Judge Constance Motley.
Yes.
So my taste in art, especially Black art, has expanded over the years. We are avid collectors, and we use art as one of the buckets that we have chosen to invest in. Not only do I like to look at it and it's beautiful and aesthetically pleasing in my house, I understand that it can, bring you a hedge with regard to your money and your portfolio investment. And so, a smart guy once told me this, Dr. Ron. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell your audience this before we end this call. A smart guy told me, he said, Crocket, there's if you can manage to have 7 separate streams of income,
wow,
coming in at any given time within your portfolio, you will be a millionaire before you know it. 7 streams of income. So that can be 3 rental houses as 3 separate streams of income,
yes,
coupled with your job. I will say this, I've always been in the Army Reserves. I served 34 years in the Army Reserve. So I've always, in effect, have had 2 jobs.
right.
Always quick to do an extra job, take an online adjunct teaching job, things of that sort, because once he threw out that 7 streams of income, and not least, if you have a spouse and your spouse is working, that's a stream of income. If she does something on the side, sells Avon, Tupperware, whatever it may be, that's another stream of income. 7 is the magic number And I'm pleased to say that, and I'm living proof that that is true. The first million is the hardest one to make. After that, the eighth great wonder of the world kicks in and the sky opens and the rest is history. It's called compounding interest.
Wow. On that note, I couldn't end it on a better note. This is Crocket Oates. He's the Vice Chancellor of Missouri State University in West Plains, Missouri. And it's been my pleasure for you to have him on my show. And it's unfortunately we got the end because I'm going to have to ask you to come back. So on that note, thank you for your time. It's been my pleasure. Peace.
Dr. Ron, that was